Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And it is another big episode of the Market Watch. A lot is happening in the secondary market. Now, things are calming down a little bit. The threshold for this week's video is $2 instead of $3 like it's been for the last few weeks. We're not going to talk about a card unless it's moving at least $2 up or down. But there are a lot of different things moving card prices again. Now, the biggest mover is Commander. Many players are building new Commander decks now that we have access to all these Streets of New Capenna cards. Plus, there's a whole lot of other things happening as well. We're going to dig into all of it. Quick reminder though, first, if you go to FlipsideGaming.com, you can use the Heroes promo code to save 10% on orders over $10. Currently, you can pick up Streets of New Capenna products there. They just restocked. They have everything you see on the screen as well as the Commander decks. And they have a whole lot of other things on their website too. Remember, if your order's over $100 or consists only of singles, shipping will be free in the United States. Also, whenever you use the Heroes promo code, it does support the channel, which is always appreciated. So thank you. And without any further ado, let's get into it. We're going to begin with the Standard Legal Spotlight. This is where we look at standard cards moving the most this week. First, we have Omnixilus the Adversary. This is down $2.74 to $28.71, and this continues to find its price as packs are being opened. It already is seeing play in a lot of formats, though. In Standard, you'll see this in Rakdos Sacrifice, Rakdos Control, and more. Pioneer, it's in Jund Midrange. Modern, it's in Rakdos Sacrifice. Legacy, it's in Grixis Tempo. It is also getting Commander Play 2 in Zeatora the Incinerator, and a number of other builds old and new. Last card moving down in this section is Cultivator Colossus. This is the one, though, from Innistrad Double Feature. It is down $8.97 to $30.39. So this saw an overly aggressive spike a couple weeks ago. Since then, over the last couple weeks, it has been retracting back down. You do see this in Modern Amulet Titan as well as 4-color Tamishi combo, and it is in a variety of Commander builds like Omnith Locus of Creation, for example. First card going up is one of the Keldheim theme booster cards, so it's not from the regular set. This is Youthful Valkyrie. It goes up $2.45 this week to $9.89. So you're going to see this one in Standard Mono White Clerics. Pioneer, remember, that format continues to be very hot because if you want to get to the Pro Tour this season, you have to go through the regional championships, and those are Pioneer tournaments. A lot of players are still trying to solve the format. A lot of them are scrambling to build decks. And this is in Bant Angels there, which is a newer deck that is made possible because of a card from Streets of New Capenna, and that's Giada Font of Hope. Youthful Valkyrie is also getting additional Commander play in Giada builds in that format, and that's not the last time you're going to hear that name today. Giada has become a very popular Commander deck very quickly. Next, we have one of the hotter cards from the new set. It is Ledger Shredder. This goes up $3.98 this week to $13.17. First off, this is in Pioneer Esper Greasefang. That's probably a big reason you're seeing this kind of price increase right now. Also, Aspiring Spike was playing 4 copies of this in a Modern Ledger Shredder Shadow deck recently. I have seen players trying this out in various formats, including Standard and Vintage. We'll have to see if this finds a stable role in those formats. Additionally, it turns out that this is a good card in Commander 2. Imagine that. It's in a lot of different builds there, old and new, including Rafine Scheming Seer. Old Gnawbone, this is up $5.28 this week to $42.20. This is in Commander Corvold Faker's King decks, and those are seeing a lot more play now since New Capenna is providing that card with a lot of support in many different ways. This is also seeing increased Commander play in builds around new cards. Things like Agnes the Dragon's Lash, Zeatora, Ginny Faye Jetmir II, Jolene the Plunder Queen, and Vazzy Keen Negotiator. And the last card in this section is Storm-Carved Coast. This is the one from Double Feature. It goes up $7.59 this week to $24. In Standard, this is in Jeskai Combo, Is It Dragons, and more. Pioneer, it's part of the mana base in 2 popular builds there, Is It Control and Is It Phoenix. Also found an Is It Thing in the Ice there. Plus, it is a good Commander mana base card too. I have seen some adding this to the Maestro's Massacre Commander deck or putting it in fresh builds around in Hello the Painter. Plus, it's in builds around some other new cards like Lord Xander the Collector and Evelyn the Covetous. That takes us to the Pioneer Legal Spotlight. First, we have some cards going down in value and then some going up. First one going down is Twilight Prophet. This is the one from the list. It goes down $2.91 to $20.82. So this was added to the list with Crimson Vow, still there going into New Capenna. And remember, there's a lot less cards in the list now starting with New Capenna. So even though the Magic version of the Stranger Things cards are heavily weighted in the set booster packs, you're still seeing a lot more copies of the other cards in the list going out into the marketplace compared to what we used to see. And that is reflected in this price here. This is seeing some increased commander play as well in Evelyn builds. Next is Mana Confluence from Journey into Nyx. This goes down $3.26 this week to $37.03. Now, this has been hot recently as a lot of players again have been trying to build Pioneer decks. However, this is getting a reprint in the Pride Across the Multiverse Secret Lair. In Pioneer, you see this in Naya Winota, Niv to Light, and more. In Modern, it's in Dredge. Legacy, it's in Lion's Eye Diamond Dredge. And it is a great commander mana-based card too in many builds, including Korvold. Days Undoing, the copy from Magic Origins, goes down $3.82 this week to $21.56. Now, this was added to the list with Crimson Vow, and it did stick around into Streets of New Capenna. And that is why this price is dropping, but still, it sees a lot of play in Pioneer. First off, this is an Izzet Thing in the Ice, and also in Izzet Control builds, both with Narset. In Legacy, you see this in Jeskai Control, and it is getting additional commander play now around some new cards, Huiza, Augur of Agonies, Rafine, and Evelyn. Emrakul, The Promised End. This is down $4.85 to $59.64, and this is retracting after some recent increases. In Pioneer, you see this in Mono White Midrange, and in Modern, it's a sideboard card in Elementals, Amulet Titan, and more. This is getting some increased commander play too in some Jolene builds. Hallowed Fountain, the original one from Dissension, it spiked last week. This week it's retracting some, down $6.67 to $41.32. Shocklands are getting another reprint in Unfinity, so don't forget that. We'll talk more about Shocklands in general a little bit later. But this one sees a lot of play. In Pioneer, it's in Azorius Control, Banned Spirits, and more. Modern, it's in Hammer Time, Elementals, and much more there. Of course, this is a big mana-based card in Commander 2. It's in many builds there, including some new ones. Falco Sparrow Packweaver, Rafine, and Tivit Seller of Secrets in both fresh builds around that card, or some just picked this up to upgrade the Obscura Operation Commander deck. And the last card in this section moving down is Korvold Fakehurst King. Of course, this was really popular thanks to Streets of New Capenna. Now it is starting to retract after the price just got a little bit too high. So you're seeing more copies of this enter the marketplace because of the price spike, and things are starting to even out a little bit, but the demand is still much higher on the card than it was before that set came out. So the Throne of Eldraine non-foil copy, which you would find in collector boosters, is down $7.95 this week to $30. The one from the list is down $9.75 to $31.06. Interesting note about that one, it was in the list for Kaldheim, then it returned in Adventures in the Forgotten Realms and stayed through Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It is now gone for New Capenna. First off, in Pioneer, this isn't Jund Sacrifice, but I do think it is Commander that's been pushing this more than anything recently. It has been a popular Commander for a long time, also in the 99 of some builds, and there's a lot of reasons the New Capenna pushed the Korvold strategy. First off, there's a lot of cards that make treasure tokens. There's Blitz creatures you sacrifice if you pay the Blitz cost. There's the Casualty mechanic that lets you sacrifice a creature to copy a spell. There's cards that are just plain good with this directly, like Riveteer's Ascendancy. Not only are there a number of cards making the Korvold build better, but you also see this around some new commanders as well in the format. It's in Agnes, Ziatora, and Vazzy builds. Plus, I have seen some picking this up as an upgrade to the Riveteer's Rampage commander deck, and others are putting in fresh builds around a card from there, Henzi Toolbox Tori. Chandra Awakened Inferno, this is up $241 this week to $18.11. In Pioneer, this is in Jund Sacrifice. In Modern, it's in Izzet Control. And this does see some commander play too in Chandra Fire of Kaladesh builds, for example. Overgrown Tomb, the original copy from Ravnica, City of Guilds, goes up $280 this week to $22.61. Like I said earlier, Shocklands are all getting reprinted again in Unfinity, but there's a lot of players scrambling to build Pioneer decks now, and in some cases, they just need to pull the trigger on some Shocklands. If you're going to buy a Shockland at this point, maybe it just makes sense to buy one of the originals, because when the reprint happens, these will hold value the best, I guess. Anyway, when it comes to gameplay, this is in Pioneer Mono Green Ramp, since those decks do run Golos Tireless Pilgrim. It's in Jund Sacrifice there and more. In Modern, you'll see this in Yawgmoth, Jund, and more there. And it is a big commander mana-based card as well. It's in many decks, including Korvold. Plus, it's in builds around new cards like Ziatora and Agnes. Good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage again, which is pretty popular. I've also seen this in fresh builds around a couple cards from there, the Beamtown Bullies and Henzi. On top of all that, this was in a couple of commander decks in the Command Zone Podcast Extra Turns episode this week. One was Glissa the Traitor. The other one was Arkelos Lagoon Mystic. Next, we have Revel in Riches. This is the Mystery Booster copy going up $293 this week to $23.97. This is in many commander builds, including Korvold again. Plus, it is in some builds around new Capenna cards like Agnes, Ziatora, and Vazzy. Good upgrade to Obscura Operation, and again, many are putting this in fresh Tivit builds too. And on top of that, it was mentioned in a Command Zone podcast episode when they were talking about upgrading Obscura Operation, and it was in that Glissa commander deck on extra turns too. Next is Absorb. The original Invasion copy is up 311 this week to 891. In Pioneer, this is an Azorius, Esper, Jeskai, and Bant control. This is also getting additional commander play now too in some Quiza and Rafine builds. Cavalier of Thorns. This card has been hot because of Pioneer. It goes up another 323 this week to 1775. This is in mono green and Selesnya ramp there. This does get a little commander play, getting a little more now too. I have seen this in some builds around Rocco Cabaretti Caterer, and some players have added this to the Riveteers Rampage commander deck, or put it in Henzi builds from scratch. Next we have Rest in Peace, the copy from the list, only there for Zendikar Rising. It goes up 432 this week to 1174. This is a huge Pioneer sideboard card to deal with strategies like Is It Phoenix? You see this in like Azorius Control, Bant Spirits, and more. You see this in Modern too, coming out of sideboards to deal with things like Yawgmoth, for example. It's in Azorius Control, Death and Taxes, and more there. Shows up in Legacy boards too, Death and Taxes, sometimes Azorius Stoneblade, and it does get additional commander play now in Giada decks. Last card in this section is Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, and this week it's the copy from the list moving. It goes up 508 this week to 4724. This was in the list for Zendikar Rising and Keldheim. In Pioneer, this is in mono green as well as Selesnya ramp. Also in mono black Devotion, mono white midrange, and mono red midrange. It is getting increased commander play too in those Giada builds. Welcome to the Modern Legal Spotlight. Again, we have some cards going down in value, then some going up. Gemstone Caverns, the original copy from Time Spiral, goes down 331 this week to 4388. You might remember the spike last week. It's been kind of turbulent, retracting some this week. It was in the list from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms through Neon Dynasty. It was removed for new Capenna though. In Modern, you see this in Crashing Footfalls, Dredge, and more. This also gets a good amount of commander play, and sometimes you do see it in Corvold. Liliana of the Veil, the copy from Innistrad. This goes down again this week after some recent spikes. It is down 431 to 8958. So clearly this card took off after Lurrus of the Dream Den was banned in Modern, since of course that card pushed this out of the format. Now that Lurrus is gone, it's been making a big comeback. In Modern, you see this in Jund, Rakdos Midrange, and more. It also gets some commander play in various builds, for example, Tergrid God of Fright / Tergrid's Lantern. Lightning Greaves from Commander 2016. You might remember this card shot up a couple weeks ago, and it was maybe a little undervalued at the time, but it did go past its probably true price point, just because it dried up in the marketplace online. This week it normalizes down 450 to 899. Now this thing gets reprinted all the time if you're looking for a cheap copy. As a matter of fact, it was just in the Maestro's Massacre commander deck. But it is a very highly played commander card in a lot of builds, including Corvold, good and fresh builds around in Hello, also seeing increased commander play in Giada, Agnes, Lord Xander, and it is a good upgrade to the Riveteers Rampage deck as well, or something you might want in a fresh build around the Beamtown Bullies. Plus it does get some modern play in Jeskai Stoneblade too. Sword of Fire and Ice, the Modern Masters copy. This one tends to be the most turbulent. It goes down 481 this week to 6757. This is retracting after some recent increases. It was seeing more play after Lurrus was banned in the format, but in recent weeks it has not seen as much. In Modern, though, it's still in Death and Taxes, and it has seen a little increased commander play in some Giada builds. Last card going down is Tarmogoyf. This is the copy from Future Sight. It's down 501 to 4620. This was in the list for Modern Horizons 2. Now, it does not see as much play as it once did, but still, it does get modern play. It's in Jund as well as the Rock there. Vintage, you see this in Sultai Midrange and 4-color Standstill, and it gets a tad bit of commander play too. First card moving up in this section is Doubling Season, the copy from Modern Masters. It goes up 218 to 8745. Huge commander card in many builds, including Corvold and Rin and Ciri. Rin and Ciri decks have been more popular too because of the dog and cat support in New Capenna. In fact, Doubling Season plays well with a lot of cards from that set, and also a lot of cards from those new commander decks. For example, I have seen many putting this in builds around Ginny Faye, Jetmir, Jolene, and Agnes. Angel of Jubilation, this goes up 231 this week to 1294, and you guessed it, this is seeing increased commander play in Giada decks. Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, this is the one from Rise of the Eldrazi. It goes up 263 this week to 7284. Now we know Kozilek, Butcher of Truth is going to be in Double Masters 2022 now. Maybe a pretty decent chance this shows up too, I guess we'll see. This does get a good amount of commander play in Kozilek the Great Distortion decks and more. Bronze Bombshell back again up 446 this week to 1850. Getting more commander play now. Good card to upgrade Riveteer's Rampage if the commander you're using is the Beamtown Bullies. Or again, if you want to build a Bullies deck from scratch, you might want this as well. Ashling the Extinguisher. This goes up 469 this week to 945. Do I see an Eventide rare that's yet to be reprinted? It's time for my one per video. As you might know by now, during this time period in the game there was a recession and less packs were cracked. So because of that, these rares that haven't been reprinted tend to get a little spiky when people pay attention to them. So why are people paying attention to this now? Well, you guessed it, Commander. It is seeing increased commander play now as an upgrade to Obscura Operation when Kamiz Obscura Oculus is used as the commander. It's also in fresh Kamiz builds too, as you can imagine. And this was mentioned as a good upgrade to the Obscura Operation deck in a recent episode of the Command Zone podcast. And that takes us to the Vintage Spotlight. This is where we talk about cards that see play in 93-94, Vintage, Legacy, or cards that are just popular among collectors. Remember, in this section, the prices you see on the screen are going to be very reminiscent at times of what you might see on a price tracking website. And that's because, at least for many of these cards, they don't get a lot of sales in any given week, so we do have to lean a little bit harder on asking price for some of them. Also, too, when it comes to some of the more older iconic cards, the price you see might be somewhere in between the price for a high-grade raw and a high-grade graded copy. But whenever there's a price that isn't quite matching up with what I'm seeing when it comes to true sales, I'll point that out. First, we have a mountain, but not any mountain. It's the one you see on the screen from Battle Royale. This one is going up 223 this week to 1450. And we've seen this hard-to-find basic land jump a lot recently. Usually this happens when someone decides they want to pick up a number of copies of the same land to put in a deck or a few decks. All the reasonably priced copies disappear at the same time, leaving only the expensive copies, and that's why you see this kind of inflation. Doesn't mean people are really spending $14.50 on this card, but that's what's left when it comes to asking prices right now, and there's just not a lot of copies out there. Typically, over time, copies replenish and things even out a little bit. Many times when this happens, it does happen to basic lands with white borders, because there are players that do prefer those because they stand out when you fetch. Sylvan Library, the 4th edition copy is up $232 to $60.84. The Eternal Masters copy goes up $256 to $58.12. This is in Legacy Naya Depths. It's also in Maverick and more there. This gets a lot of commander play too. It's in Corvold builds a lot of times. And you see this in builds around new cards like Ginny Fey, Falco, and Jetmir. Also a good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage. Or again, others are putting this in fresh builds around the Beamtown Bullies. City of Traders, this is up $284 this week to $275. This is in Legacy Painter, Sneak and Show, and more. This also gets some commander play in a variety of builds. Volcanic Island from Revised, it goes up $325 this week to $775. Not a huge percentage increase, but it's only one of 2 revised dual lands moving up this week. Force of Will, the Double Masters copy up $337 to $122.99. The Eternal Masters copy goes up $448 to $130.59. This is a huge Legacy and Vintage staple found in multiple decks in both of those formats. Plus, it is a highly played commander card as well in lots of builds, including some new ones like Quiza. Mox Opal, the original one from Scars and Meriden, goes up $451 this week to $74.49. This is in 8-cast, Painter, and more in Legacy. Vintage, you'll see it in Paradoxical Outcome in 8-cast. This also gets commander play too in Corvold and other decks. Mountains are hot right now. Here's another one. Now, this is a hard-to-find one from Portal 2nd Age, and it is the one you see on the screen. It goes up $4.70 to $10.24. Again, this price is inflated due to lack of inventory online. Here's that second revised dual land, Taiga. It goes up $5.01 to $408.99. Sensei's Divining Top. Now, this is the copy from the list that was added with Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And it did remain in there for new Capenna, but this is still going up in value. This is up $502 this week to $55.01, at least theoretically. I do think that is a little inflated, and I do think there's a lot of copies getting poured into the marketplace right now, so keep an eye on this one. But I will say, this card did see some recent losses, so this could be a temporary rebound of sorts. Now in Vintage, this is in 4-color Tinker, Paradoxical Outcome, Grixis Underworld Breach, and it is seeing increased commander play now in Falco. Here's another card that I think is a little inflated. This is Snuff Out from Dual Decks Anthology. It goes up $6.39 this week to $20.74. This copy does tend to get dry online every once in a while. This week it does look like that occurred again. In Legacy, it does see play in Elves as well as Ninjas. Sees commander play too. Many times this is in Yuriko the Tiger Shadow decks. Those are always popular. And it is a popular pauper card too. Lion's Eye Diamond, this is up $906 this week to $570. In Legacy, this is an Ad Nauseam Tendrils, Painter, and much more. And you do see this in Commander as well, sometimes in Corvold builds. Psionic Blast from Unlimited goes up $1035 this week to $8835. And as a matter of fact, all the rest of the white border cards in this section are from the Unlimited set. So I won't keep saying that. When you see a white border card, just know it's from there. Army of Allah, this is the B variation from Arabian Nights. It has the lighter color casting cost. It goes up $1044 this week to $4549. El Hajjaj from Arabian Nights goes up $1047 this week to $5923. Gaia's Liege is up $1130 to $40.28. Field of Dreams up $20.10 to $200.99. Gaia's Cradle from Urza Saga goes up $22.34 to $1,082.83. It has been sticking around this price point, kind of moving up and down for a while now. It does see Legacy play in Elves, sometimes Maverick. In Vintage, it's in Squeak Hollowvine. Great Commander card too for a number of decks, including Corvold. And I have seen this in some new builds too, around cards like Jenny Faye, Rocco, and Jetmir. Sarah Angel, this is up $22.90 to $132. Good for Commander Giada builds, but these unlimited cards tend to have a life of their own outside of gameplay, so I don't really think that's pushing this necessarily. Collectors are always looking for these in high grade, and players usually settle for a cheaper copy. Another Arabian Nights card here with Abu Jafar. This goes up $27.82 to $94. Savannah Lions is up $40 to $275. Scrubland up $88.52 to $835.99. Haunting Wind. This in theory is up $152.43 to $190. Now when it comes to true sales, raw copies have been breaking about $70. I did see an 8.5 sell recently for about $100. So sure, a 9 or 9.5 could get closer to this price point. I do think, however, this is a buyout, maybe a speculative buyout based on a Commander build. And the build I'm referring to is Vazi. I have seen it in at least one deck list online. Time Vault is up $222.03 to $1,669.99. Now, is that price for real? Well, there was a high-grade raw copy that sold recently for about $2,900. So if anything, this price is most likely low. I have not seen any high-grade graded copy sell for a while, but when one does, it will be even higher. And the last card in the section is Mox Ruby, up $1,000 to $10,000. Is that for real? Well, this price is closer to what you might expect to pay for a high-grade graded copy. When it comes to Power 9, though, it is hard to pin down value since there's just not many sales of these cards. Typically, the ups and downs you see are tied into asking price for the copies on sale that given week. And grades, of course, can vary. The amount of cards graded versus non-graded can vary from week to week. Basically, they're worth what somebody's willing to pay at that moment. And that takes us to the Commander Spotlight. So everything in this section is moving, at least in part because of Commander, but there could be other things driving the price movement too. I'll let you know, of course, as we go through. First, we have Frankenstein's Monster. This is up $209 to $29.74. This card does not see that much play to speak of, but a number of reserve list cards from the Dark are moving up this week. This is just the first one. It could be the start of a new round of buyouts, perhaps. Volrath Stronghold. This is up $220 to $117.81. Now, this is on the reserve list, but it does see Commander play in a variety of builds. Phyrexian Negator from Urza's Destiny, up $221 to $15.08. This is another reserve list card, but it is seeing increased Commander play. It is a good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage if the Commander you're using is the Beamtown Bullies, and of course it's good in fresh builds around that card too. Food Chain, this is the one from Mercadian Masks. It goes up $221 to $62.95. It was on the list from Zendikar Rising through Strixhaven, and this has been in some Commander builds, including Corvold. Now you are seeing it in builds around a new card too, Rocco. This will always be a go-to combo enabler in the format. Archangel of Thune, this is the copy from Magic 2014. It goes up $223 this week to $29.62. This is seeing increased Commander play in Giada builds, and to a lesser degree, Falco decks too. Herald of the Host, the copy from Commander 2015, goes up $233 to $376. This is also getting more Commander play in Giada. Preacher, this gets a tad bit of Commander play, but really this is another reserve list card from the Dark that's most likely moving just because of that reason. It goes up $275 to $87.76. Mana Vault from 5th edition, up $297 this week to $68.25. Okay, just a word of warning here. It looks like Mana Vault is pictured on the side of the Double Masters 2022 Draft Booster Box, so it appears there's a reprint incoming. This copy's still moving up a little bit though this week. Solid Commander card, now getting more play in Lord Xander builds. In Vintage, you see this in Paradoxical Outcome and Aggro Shops. Season of the Witch, this also gets a tad bit of commander play, but again, it is a reserve list card from the dark, moving up $2.99 this week to $51.98. Plea for Power up $3.05 this week to $11.30. This is seeing more commander play now, thanks to Streets of New Capenna. This is a good upgrade to Obscura Operation if you are running Tivit, or of course you can put it in fresh builds around that card too. To a lesser degree, I'm also seeing this in some Queza builds. Psychic Allergy, again, doesn't see much play to speak of. This one started jumping up last week, still moving up a little bit this week. This reserve list card from the dark is up $3.20 to $40. Copy Artifact from Revised up $3.49 to $89.94, and this does get commander play in a variety of decks. Bone Miser, the one from the list, goes up $3.15 to $11.99, only there for Modern Horizons 2. The Commander 2019 copy goes up $3.91 to $9.37. And this is seeing more commander play now in new builds like Rafine, Toulouse Clever Conductor, Oscar Rubbish Reclaimer, and Queza. Nameless Race, again, not a lot of play, but a reserve list card from the dark. It's up $3.93 to $21.99. Myth Unbound up $4.02 to $10.37. This is seeing more commander play now. It is a great upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage if you're using Henzi as your commander. Also, of course, in fresh builds around that card. And another card from the deck, Jolene. Plus, I've seen this in some Rocco decks, too. Unfulfilled Desires up $4.91 this week to $16.18. This has seen a little commander play, sometimes in Zur the Enchanter, for example. But now, I am seeing this in a few builds around a new card, Oscar from Obscura Operation. For the amount of new play, though, that I have seen when it comes to deck lists online, I still think this is a very big jump. It does look more like a targeted reserve list buyout, maybe based on the speculation that it would see more play with Oscar. Gilded Drake is up $5 to $345.99. This does get a good amount of commander play in various decks. Undiscovered Paradise up $5.08 to $29.20. This gets a little commander play, but I think, again, this is moving more because of its status on the reserve list. It does look like another targeted reserve list buyout. Currency Converter, this is in the Obscura Operation Commander deck. It goes up $5.11 this week to $7.96. In addition to builds around Kamiz and Tivit, you are seeing this in a number of other builds, old and new, in the Commander format. This was also mentioned on the Command Zone podcast this week, which could have brought some more attention to it. Bruvac the Grandiloquent from Jumpstart goes up $5.66 this week to $30. Now, this was in the list for Modern Horizons 2 and Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. It is a fairly popular commander, but this can be pretty devastating now alongside a new card from Streets of New Capenna, and that is Lord Xander. Also, there's a series of Persistent Petitioner Secret Lair bonus cards that are going out now, and that could have some people thinking about Bruvac again. Angelic Field Marshal, this is up $6.36 this week to $18.14, and of course this is getting a lot of additional commander play now in Giada decks. Pearl Medallion from Commander 2014, it goes up $6.71 this week to $29.99. And this is in a number of mono-white commander decks, and yes, of course, it's in Giada as well. And to a lesser degree, it's in another new deck, Benny Brack's Zoologist. Jolene the Plunder Queen goes up $7.17 to $9.90. This is in the Riveteer's Rampage commander deck. And it's not only a good commander on its own, but it's also in fresh builds around other cards from that deck, Henzi and the Beamtown Bullies. Plus, it's showing up in a lot of other commander builds, old and new. Coercive Portal goes up $8.78 this week to $25.75. This is seeing more commander play now as an upgrade to Obscura Operation, and in fresh builds around Tivit. Survival of the Fittest from Exodus up $8.93 this week to $267.76. And this one's expensive, but can be a good upgrade to Riveteer's Rampage if you have it. Also seeing play in fresh commander builds around the Beamtown Bullies from there. And I've seen this in some Rocco decks too. Reign of Riches, another card from Riveteer's Rampage. This is up $11.98 this week to $17.09. First off, of course, this is in some fresh builds around a couple cards from that deck, Henzi and Jolene. But really, this is taking off the way it is now because it is a very good commander card for a lot of different builds, especially since the Treasure mechanic has seen a ton of support recently. Players are interested in picking this up for a number of builds, old and new. On top of that, they also previewed the front-facing commander for the Warhammer 40k deck called the Ruinous Powers. It appears that Cascade is a theme for that deck, and here's the card I'm talking about, Abaddon the Despoiler. And the last card in the section is from Obscura Operation. This is Smuggler's Share. This is up $13.26 to $39.99, and this is another card that is simply a solid commander card overall. Of course, it's in fresh commander builds around a couple cards from Obscura Operation, Kamiz and Tivit, but it's also showing up in a lot of different commander decks, old and new, besides those. And that takes us to the premium spotlight. Of course, premium cards are always on the move, jumping, going down in price. I could probably spend all day talking about the different spikes and drops that we see in that market. But we don't have a lot of time, so I usually just pick 1, 2, 3, 4 cards sometimes, every once in a while more, that really reflect a potential stable increase based on something that's going on currently, whether that be gameplay, a preview card pushed it, something like that. Today I just chose one card. I didn't see anything else that really caught my eye. I don't like to spend time talking about things that are bought out or things that are just jumping short term because they're dry for a week or two. And remember, in this section, the prices are very similar to what you might see in the vintage section because these cards don't see a lot of sales in any given week either. So I do have to rely a little more on asking prices a lot of the time, and that is the case for this card. Survival of the Fittest. This is the Judge foil. It is up $15.50 to $1,800 in theory. I chose this one because even though it does have a pretty small percentage increase, I have noticed a lot of these old Judge foils have been moving at least gradually in the upward direction. They have their ups and downs, of course. When it comes to true sales, I did see a high-grade raw copy of this sell for about $1,000 not too long ago. Next time a high-grade graded copy sells, I could see it possibly getting close to this price point. Alright, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. If you're still here at the end, hey, thanks for sticking with me. I always appreciate that. Until next time, hey, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.